What if your dog could live forever? Or what if you're a farmer and you wanted more cows? Or what if you wanted to create a theme park where people could come and see dinosaurs? The answer to all of this is cloning. In this speech, I'll give a brief overview of cloning, specifically the history of cloning, what exactly it is, how it works, and the ethical debate that surrounds it. As a side note, there are different types of cloning, including stem cell, which takes stem cells and then creates new tissue that can replace dead or damaged tissue. There's gene cloning, which copies specific genes and genomes, and there's reproductive cloning, which is what we'll be talking about today. So let's dive in. Cloning is a lot older than you think. Most people think of Dolly the sheep from the late 90s when you talk about cloning. And to Dolly's credit, that is what was internationally publicized and kick-started a lot of the debate. In 1997 was called the Year of the Clone, McKinnell's paper about it. But Dolly was actually predated by more than 50 years by two scientists named Robert Briggs and Thomas J. King. They successfully cloned frogs. After them, there were many attempts that were successful in cloning mice in the late 70s. Moving on to today, many companies will offer to clone your cat or your dog or whatever animal for a pretty hefty sum. So you may be wondering, how does this all work? Cloning is a process that is simple in concept but very difficult in practice. So according to Wells in his paper, you start with the DNA of whatever specimen you want to clone, so take your dog. So you would take the cells from that and inject it into the egg of the same species. So you take cells from wherever on your dog and inject it into an egg in a lab. After the growth process is started, the egg is placed into the uterus of the same species, so a female dog, for example. So the egg is then fertilized and grown and developed inside the mother and is eventually born naturally, and then theoretically the clone develops and turns into the same animal, so the original dog. In practice, the process isn't very efficient, with a success rate of around 6% that live. Those 6% live as long-term adults. The rest have complications, development issues, and even die. Do you remember Dolly from earlier? Dolly was actually the 276th attempt at cloning a sheep. In addition, 2 years after Dolly, scientists in Japan tried to clone calves from a cow, and they were born, and they were fairly successful, but 4 out of 8 of the clones died. Scientists have tried to bring back extinct animals. A couple years after that, in 2003, scientists in northern Spain tried to bring back an extinct goat called a Bricardo, but the clone only lived for 10 minutes. It's a little shorter than the average lifespan of a goat. Since cloning can be so dangerous to the animals and so unhealthy, it's sparked this huge ethical debate over if it should even be done. This caused a very large controversy, with the overwhelming majority of people thinking that it should not be done. They're worried about the welfare of the clones. If these clones are born, but they have development issues, if they have disabilities, or if they die, that's not ideal, obviously. They're worried about the mother. If the mother dies, what's the point? Because you lose one animal, and you could lose the child too, depending on if it has all these aforementioned problems and complications. And then finally, we're worried about another animal's being neglected. So if I have 10 horses, but one's a cut above, do I take my really good horse, clone him, so I have these 2 amazing horses, and the rest are all right? Do the other 9 end up getting neglected? Do I just work with the 2 horses? Most people would say, yeah, that would happen, and a lot of people say, no, of course that wouldn't happen, but we just don't know. So in conclusion, cloning is an idea that goes all the way back to the late 40s, and it's still going fairly strong today, with people offering to clone their house cats or dogs, and some people do it. It costs an enormous amount of money, but if you have it, people will do it for you. It's a very complicated process with a high failure rate of over 90%. This high failure rate has caused a lot of controversy and a lot of people looking to abolish the practice. In conclusion, cloning is a difficult process that has caused a lot of controversy, but has been an anomaly of science for a long time. Thank you.